Welcome to episode, what is this, 9?
Dude, I have no idea.
Episode 9 of the Legends in Detail podcast. This week we're doing Wilt Chamberlain. Obviously, I'm one of your co-hosts, Corey Hathaway. We also got Sam Hoffman. Sam, what's up?
What's up, Corey?
And we also back again, right? Reoccurring guest at this point. It was fill-in, now it's a reoccurring guest.
Yeah, I feel like my status goes up each episode. I just want to start this off. My name is Brandon, by the way. I don't know if Corey introduced me there.
Brandon Bates.
Thank you, sir.
Right?
I think he forgot my name. But anyway,
I used to call him Brandon
Dwayne Wade. Oh, see, now that's just something that didn't need to be said.
Mhm.
All right. So now all 12 of you know my name. But no, it's cool. I just wanted to say I hated missing the Dwayne Wade one. I listened to it. It was awesome.
Dude, that was a good episode.
I liked
I felt
it.
like we brought it that episode.
Dwayne's awesome. I knew it would be great. Yeah, I like that.
We normally don't bring it, but for that episode, we
No,
brought
I was about to say, like, the lack of me really.
I feel offended that you just say we normally don't bring it.
I mean, let's be honest.
I feel like
we
I bring
definitely,
my heart and soul every single week.
we've definitely mailed it in.
We've had some audio issues.
I don't know if you paid attention, but these little cheat sheets are coming a lot slower these days.
Eric's like, where's it at?
Dude. All right, so Wilt Chamberlain, it's finally here, right? We've been talking about it since the birth of this podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We got
I got a little overzealous with that
But
plan.
then it just stopped.
This will make the
24.
pop. I have no doubt in my mind. This is one of the ones.
Hey, if Wilt gets us over 100, I would take
He
that.
won't.
No.
But it sucks because not a lot of
Obviously,
people know who Wilt Chamberlain is. Or a lot of people, dude. You know what's crazy? I looked up like the most 50-point games, like who had the most 50-point games, and it said number 1 Michael Jordan. It was like 30 something. And I was like, that can't be right. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 for a whole season.
Mhm.
And so then I clicked on the link and it was like, oh yeah, Wilt Chamberlain, yeah, he did, but of the modern era, like dude, they discredit his stats so much, and I don't understand why.
Yeah.
It's just recency bias. I mean, no one had that emotional connection. I don't say no one. Obviously, they did back then, but like,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just like a lot of people had a very strong emotional connection to Jordan, Kobe, still to LeBron. I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean,
that's
a big part of it is watching them growing up, and then the other part of it is like, even if you do go back and watch Wilt highlights, it's just not the same. It's just not played the same. The game isn't played the same way.
no,
It's weird to watch
It really is.
versus watching like Jordan highlights in the '90s. Like, it's still pretty much the same NBA,
Exactly.
yeah.
other than like tougher defense.
I think like only 2% of his total games were televised, so we just didn't get to see enough. You know, the 100-point game wasn't televised. Like a lot of his is 1962 when he averaged 50 points a game. So it's like, you know, there wasn't a lot of footage of it.
Yeah, so that's gonna get swept under the rug.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, and it stinks. I mean, you know, Corey's the one over here that showed me some of these videos I had never seen before, just because I was too lazy to look it up. Because I was like,
Dog, if you walk into my house on a random weekend, I'm watching Wilt Chamberlain videos. Like, I swear, dude. Like I'm a huge fan. He's my second favorite player ever, behind Bron.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in the Bron era, so obviously Bron's number 1. But
Ron magazine sitting right here.
Wait, really? Not Kareem.
no, Kareem's number 3.
Okay, it's number
I got Kareem over Wilt all time. Let's make that clear. I got him number 3 all time, and I got Wilt number 4. But as far as favorite player, I'd put Wilt as my second
So you
favorite.
go MJ, LeBron, Kareem, Wilt.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And dude, there's an argument to be made Bron's 1. There's also an argument to be made Kareem's 1. So those top 3 are really interchangeable. It's whatever you need, you know.
Are you saying there's not an argument to be made that Wilt's one?
The problem I have with Wilt, and we'll get into it. I guess we can get into it now.
Nah, dude.
All right,
Let's fucking,
you want me?
gloves are off.
All right, here, I'll get into it now.
Pissed.
I get into it now because I wanted to bring this up before we break down all his stats and stuff. So Rick Barry, and a lot of people don't know who Rick Barry is, but in the 70s, Rick Barry was a bad boy. Like, Rick Barry is known as a top 20 player all time. A lot of his stuff isn't really remembered because he played in the 70s, the dark ages of the NBA. He also went to the ABA for like 5 years in his prime. So we missed a lot of Rick Barry. But look up Rick Barry's numbers. The dude was amazing. In 1972, in the prime of Rick Barry's career, 1972, most people, when they write a book, they write it after their career. This dude was playing against Wilt Chamberlain and wrote a book, and this is what he said in his book. Rick Barry was wild. So this is his quote. I'll say what most players feel, which is that Wilt is a loser. He's terrible in big games. He knows he is going to lose and be blamed for the loss, so he dreads it. And you can see it in his eyes. And anyone who has ever played with him will agree with me, regardless whether they would admit it publicly. When it comes down to the closing minutes of a tough game, an important game, he doesn't want the ball. He doesn't want any part of the pressure. OT is at these times. I don't know. There's a typo. The greatness is determined, and Wilt doesn't have it. There's no way you can compare him to a pro like Bill Russell or Jerry West. These are clutch competitors. That's pretty wild.
Based on what exactly? What is he referring to when he says that? I mean, I know Wilt's playoff career stats took a little bit of a dip. They took a little
bit of a dip. So
rebounds went up, points went down.
Yeah. So when Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell went head to head, Bill Russell averaged 14.2 points per game, which is not great. But, Bill Russell wasn't a scorer. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 29.9, which sounds amazing, but compared to what he was averaging in the regular seasons, 37, 38, 50. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Are we gonna fault Wilt for averaging 29 points?
No, I'm not. But I'm saying that maybe in bigger moments, Wilt had a little bit of a tendency, and honestly, you can make the argument for Bron does it too sometimes.
Look, if Wilt choking looks like 29 points per game,
you're right.
I don't think that's
the rest of the team has to take some blame there.
The rest of the team does have to take blame. There's no doubt about it. But when they play each other. When Bill Russell's got a record of 57 wins versus 37 losses against you, you're 37 and 57. It's like, all right, well, at some point we have to say, like, all right, there's something about this guy that you don't play as good against this one guy. Like, why is that? And I think that's why Bill Russell, dude, he was like 6'8", guarding Wilt Chamberlain 7'2", and obviously doing work on him. One of the greatest defenders ever, if not the greatest defender ever, because he had to guard Wilt, and Wilt was unguardable.
Yeah,
pretty solid, right? I thought it was good analysis.
Who was that quote was from?
That was from Rick Barry.
That was from Rick Barry.
Rick Barry, yeah, Hooper, son. Hooper. Oh my God.
Look, sounded like he was hurt though. That was personal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm not saying he's wrong, but like, there's nothing specific in there. It sounds like just a personal vendetta.
Yeah. So I'm glad you guys brought that up because he actually years later said that he regrets writing that in his book, and Wilt Chamberlain statistically is the greatest player ever. And he said also if Wilt Chamberlain had the teammates that Bill Russell had, he'd have been just as big of a winner. So I think at the time maybe there was a little bit of who's the best player in the league type of deal, and Rick Barry in his prime wrote a book. like dude, that is so
LeBron
wild.
Just writing, I don't know.
LeBron just writing a book
like
about
James
Kevin
Harden
Durant.
writing a book, just like LeBron is a little bitch. Crumbles
like it is wild. What like Rick Barry was just it was so crazy, dude. Speaking of which, so Wilt Chamberlain had 118 games of over 50 points. The next closest was Michael Jordan with 31 games. That's insane. Like that.
Dude, I totally spaced out. Can you say that?
Wilt Chamberlain had 118 games of over 50 points.
Oh my God.
Michael Jordan had 31.
Yeah, what do you even say to that?
People never consider him to be the greatest scorer ever. And it's such... I don't understand why.
I mean, Wilt is far and away the greatest. I don't know if you can say he's far and away the greatest scorer ever, but he's the greatest scorer ever.
I think he's the greatest scorer ever.
And he's far and away the greatest rebounder ever.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's
like,
no
not
one
even close.
Honestly, you make an argument he's the greatest defender ever, too.
You
if
could.
you wanted to.
I mean, if you were counting blocks, I guarantee you would be looking at these stats like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude, you'd be like, who is this guy? In 100 years from now, that's what they're going to do because there's hardly any footage on him. They're just going to be like, how is this guy?
We don't know how good he was.
Yeah. So, career numbers. This is what's crazy to me. If a dude gets 30 and 20 in a game, it's like they're throwing a parade. Mm-hmm. This guy averaged for his career 30.1 points per game, 22.9 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists on 54% shooting for his career.
Yeah, so that's
and he could have averaged more points.
Like, he's doing everything out there. You just have to show up and do your part for a second. Maybe just don't miss all your shots.
Yeah. No, I mean, and he had no problem just taking all the shots too.
Oh yeah.
Who were his teammates through his best years, scoring? I could not tell you a single.
Well, he had Jerry West and Elgin Baylor when he went to L.A., but as far as on the Sixers and shit, I have no idea who he played with.
And when Wilt decided to pass, he led the league in assists.
Right, exactly. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, like that. There's a lot that goes into that, but that is pretty crazy. But he was a good passer.
He could lead the league in anything.
He really could,
basically.
He really could. So those are his career numbers, playoff numbers. Dips a little bit, but also you got to remember, like his latter half of his career, he was more of a rebounder. He decided to stop scoring. So these numbers are they're a little bit misleading.
How much was Baylor scoring? Like, was he replacing?
Yeah, Baylor was putting up numbers.
So they just asked.
They asked him. After when he went to LA, they literally asked him, "It's like, dude, just focus on do what Bill Russell does." That's literally what they told him. Like, do what Bill Russell does.
Good teammates now. He's probably traumatized at that point. Like for him to mesh that well in there is pretty crazy.
So in the playoffs, 22.5 points per game, 24.5 rebounds per game. Again, 4 assists, 52% shooting. And I'm telling you, those numbers look lower, especially on the points per game. But the latter half of his career, he stopped scoring.
Like most of his playoff appearances were in the latter half when he wasn't scoring as much. So yeah, at first glance, it looks like he regressed in the playoffs, that he shrunk in the moment. But
either way,
I don't know if you can really say that.
Either way,
rebounds went up.
Those are still like if someone just had 22 and 24 and averaged that throughout the playoffs in their whole career, that'd be the greatest player ever. But for some reason with Wilt, we don't say that. It's just kind of crazy to me. So
how many of the finals and stuff were televised then?
Not many. I think
less than 2%.
Less than 2%. Season? Yeah, for his whole career, all his career, it's like 2% of games.
The playoffs isn't going to be much.
No, back then in the 60s. In the 60s, there was only like 8 teams back then,
Right.
And a lot of the games weren't televised. They really didn't start like 1969. Like that game is on YouTube, and there's some like 1967 stuff, but like man, when you start going before that, like you can barely even see the footage. Like it's really hard to watch and stuff, but. I still try to go back every once in a while. I watched Wilt Chamberlain when he was on that Lakers team that won like 33 games in a row, the 1972 Lakers. He went up against like Kareem, like the young Kareem. It was one of the greatest games I watched, dude. It's just like two guys, and he's literally passing the torch to Kareem. It's just, and they hate each other. It's hilarious.
That's cool.
Yeah, but okay, so I think. In order to do Wilt, you kind of have to set him up a little bit because Wilt Chamberlain in middle school was like 6'8". Right? He was massive his entire life. I think he was 6'3" when he graduated elementary school. And then when he got to high, and then
the rate of growth, that is wild. You would be able to watch that man grow.
Yeah, and then what's even crazier?
There's no way that's.
No, I think that is true. I just watched it might have been Kareem. I might be thinking of Kareem. I just watched the documentary.
Not a real person. Somebody genetically made that.
Wilt Chamberlain's dad and mom are both like 5'5" and 5'4".
Well, see, that's crazy because, like, I mean,
He has
does
some
he
kind
have
of giant vision.
Michael Jordan's brothers and dad are 5'5", 5'4", and then Michael Jordan's just 6'6". It's crazy. A lot of these athletes, though, they come from small people. It's kind of crazy. Like, they don't come from. I think it's just like, just every once in a while that gene hits, and then they just grow like uncontrollably.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be something like that because it just seems to be like a. Because even you look at like Michael Jordan's kids, they're not really that good at basketball, and they're not tall either. And then LeBron James' kids, they're not going to be as tall as him either.
Just some kind
Ronnie's
of mutation.
looking like pretty cut though.
Yeah,
like, some of those pictures he posted.
He's growing into his body. Yeah,
like that man is going to be a problem. Like it's
he's,
going to be
he's
incredible.
good.
He's good. He's fun to watch. Like that's crazy because like LeBron, how much you think he weighed when he came into the league?
like 250.
Okay, so he's
no,
maybe
not
like
when he first
245.
came into the league.
He looks.
He was like
it looks
245.
he might
Maybe
be
he's
a little
always
bit
been pretty heavy. Like,
bigger,
Yeah,
but
I think Bron got up to
to
like 285 when he was with Miami, having to play power forward. Like, I think he got up to like 285, and then his knees started bothering him. He was like, I gotta lose weight.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I think. I because if you go back and watch him on those Miami days, dude, he is jacked.
Yeah,
Like, he is no fat. Dude. It's just all it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so his whole life he's been massive. His whole life, and he does. And honestly, a lot of big men, I've noticed this. They don't really like being tall. You know, the only big man I know that likes being tall is Shaq. Shaq loves it. But every other big man seems like you see Kareem. He's always
feel awkward.
Kareem's always like this, you know. Like he just doesn't.
You know you're not a normal person. Like you literally stare at the top of people's heads your whole life.
Exactly.
That feels so weird.
Yeah,
I can't imagine being that tall.
yeah.
You have to duck through stuff. You can't just like you gotta watch where you're going.
Yeah.
So Wilt, obviously being that tall, started playing basketball, being really good at it at a young age. He ends up signing or committing to Kansas City, like the Jayhawks.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a big newspaper that came out that said, all you need is Wilt Chamberlain and like 4 trash cans next to him, and you'll win the NCAA title.
What a disrespectful ad to the team.
Wilt takes them all the way to the national championship and loses.
Ooh.
And that kind of set up. I think it's a lot like Chris Webber when Chris Webber was part of the Fab Five, and then he blows the timeout.
Yeah,
and it kind of plagued him throughout his career. I think, unfortunately, that kind of happened a little bit with Wilt Chamberlain, not to the same degree as Chris. I mean, Chris Webber wouldn't touch the ball in the last 3 minutes of a game. It was crazy, but Wilt Chamberlain, unfortunately, I think that set up. He was always the best individual player. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough to get over the hump. And that happened a lot over his career. What's crazy after that, he stayed like a couple more years in Kansas City. Then he went and played for the Harlem Globetrotters for a year. And they retired his number.
I bet they did.
Yeah. So, gets drafted to the NBA. Territorial pick in 1959.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but that's literally what it says when you look it up.
No idea.
They did it.
We were just going to try to let that
They
go.
revamped the draft after in the 60s. I think when the ABA and the NBA merged, they redid the draft. So it's like different. But back then it was a territorial pick. So I don't know exactly what that means. Dude.
Maybe it means like if you went to college in a certain area, they try to keep you with an NBA
That's
team.
probably it. Yeah.
It's the only thing I can think of territorial.
Yeah.
Team in that sense.
Yeah. It's like you have your choice within these blocks, right?
Well, I mean, you have 8 choices. So
Yeah, literally. You don't have many. So right out of the gate, Wilt Chamberlain walks into the league as a rookie, averaging 37.6 and 27 rebounds a game on 46% shooting. I mean,
read those stats again,
dude.
This is rookie year.
Rookie year, 37 points a game, 27 rebounds, 46% shooting. Like, it's insane to know. As a rookie,
Imagine someone dropping that stat line today.
Exactly.
One time.
Dude.
One time.
he literally won
Be the
Rookie
greatest
of the Year.
performance of the year.
Yeah, he won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year. Dude, he also. What do you think the NBA record is for rebounds in a game?
43.
No idea.
55.
Jesus.
Guess who did it?
I'm guessing Wilt.
Guess against who?
Oh, no idea.
Bill Russell.
Oh, wow.
Oh, guess when he was a rookie. Like, dude, like
Oh my
people
God.
do not understand.
Well, he was. I mean, how old?
Was Bill Russell?
Yeah, it was Bill Russell.
He was 2 years into the league. He was in his prime.
I was about to say, because I mean, that
Dude,
guy,
there's
he
barely
could bounce.
55 shots that come off the rim, and
Now I will
His team was
say,
missing a lot of shots. Those were a lot of offensive boards. There's no way
probably.
they were off. I mean, was he ooping them down? Was it off the rebound?
yeah, no, he
A lot of
was.
times I can imagine.
Yeah, he was getting
Just
boards.
wait on it.
Now I will say, like, if you're looking at these stats, I don't want to discredit Wilt, but I will say if you look at the era and how basketball was played back then, the average shot percentage back then was in the 30s. And if you look at the pace of play, it was faster than today's game. So there were a lot more missed shots and a lot more chances. Also, it didn't hurt that Wilt was also massive. So
Why do you think the shot percentage was so
low? Well, because honestly, I'll tell you why. I think, number one, guys are just better shooters now. Sure. And also, if you look at the form back then, they didn't have anyone to watch. So a lot of the guys, Dr. J's elbow was out there too, you know. And now that we've seen like Ray Allen and Steph Curry, guys are coming in.
They're probably shooting very different every time. Like their technique was
like, look, go back and watch Oscar Robinson's broke jump shot, dude. That
Yeah.
thing was
No, I mean,
like,
most of the older guys you just watch. I mean, like it's ugly. It's Michael K. Gilchrist ugly.
yeah, it's really bad. Next season after that, 38.4 points per game, 27.2 rebounds per game, 50% shooting, almost 51% shooting. I mean, he got better in every category the next season after that. It's insane.
What was the team's win-loss record? His rookie.
Can you look it up? I don't have it on.
My phone is about.
It couldn't have been good though.
Right, like
What year was that?
That was 1960-61.
Like that's just so crazy that you're putting up those numbers in the boards, especially. I mean, if it's points and nothing else, or like a few assists here and there, but like the boards he's putting up, that gives you second chance a lot. That gives you like so many defensive stops. It's just ridiculous that you're not winning at least like 500 basketball. You know, like I don't know. It just seems really wild to me. Like I want to know his teammates. Who did this to him? That's what I want to know.
What? Oh, okay. Here it is. So they were. Oh, they were 46 and 33. It wasn't like they were.
Oh, okay.
You know, they were all right, but the Celtics were 57 and 22. So the Celtics were just a better team.
Just ass.
The Celtics were just stacked. I mean,
they really were, dude. They had John Havlicek coming off the bench, and he retired as a top 10 player all time.
do you think if
The way you saw it, you were like, you just said that. Like, always about to disagree.
Well, like I guess like if the tables were turned and Wilt was on the Celtics for most of his career, like swap Bill Russell for Wilt, like what would happen to Wilt's averages and what would happen to the number of championships and MVPs and all that? And would he be the GOAT? If
I don't know. You know, it's crazy. I've thought about this a lot, and my immediate answer is Wilt would have got every single championship, and it would have just been the Wilt Chamberlain show. No one would have even known Bill Russell because those numbers weren't impressive. That's my immediate thought.
Well, Bill's numbers would go up if he was on a different team, but not like to
Not
to levels where you would be like,
not
this
to
is one of the greatest.
Yeah.
His stats look written down on here would not be like as ghastly.
Yeah, like when you look at like with Wilt Chamberlain, just take championships out. You look at these numbers, and it's like, yeah, no, this is the greatest player I've ever seen. Like this is, there's no one better.
Walking to those championships.
Yeah,
it's just insane.
But I've watched a lot of people who were alive when Bill Russell was playing and actually like grew up watching it and stuff, and every single one of them, they all agreed Bill Russell was better. Every single one of them.
Yeah, but
that's
Corey,
pretty crazy.
That's
they saw him. Like, how is it that every single one of them?
You know that's an emotional thing, though. When you're asking somebody to dig back in their memory, like memories don't serve well all the time, and people tend to base their who's your favorite, right? They tend to say
they had no frame of reference to go back and look and be like they're just remembering emotion. They're not remembering. Like, you can't go back and look at, like, you're gonna forget a lot of stuff. You can't go back and look at highlights.
And they're gonna remember the way people talked about these players, right? So if you had somebody writing a book about Wilt saying that he wasn't, he shrunk in big situations, and you had Bill Russell winning all these championships, of course.
Okay, I'll give you one better.
Perception.
Do you respect Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's opinion?
What was his opinion?
But I'm just saying, like, just pure basketball, you got to respect what Kareem says, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He wrote a letter when he retired called Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh my God! And you're gonna that's already discredited for me. I feel.
Yeah, I mean, Corey, these aren't legitimate arguments.
He wrote an open letter. He said, "You will be remembered as a whining crybaby and a quitter."
Damn,
No.
I've never heard him talk about that.
Wilt Chamberlain can say what he wants. I've watched the interviews. Never got over that one. He never let that one go. I know for a fact he has.
That's pretty. I mean, that's bad.
Well, honestly, Wilt. I'll be honest with you. Like, Wilt kind of started it. Like, he really did kind of start with Kareem. Like, he was basically for the last half of Kareem's career. He kept saying to the media, like, Kareem needs to retire. He's not as good as he wants. And Kareem never said anything back. And then finally, when he retired. And, Kareem had a masterpiece of a career, one of the greatest careers ever. So he was like, all right, I just retired, one of the greatest careers ever. I beat you in all-time points. And then, just drops that. I guess he just fed up, Like, quit talking about me. Like, I don't never bring you up. So it's...
Yeah, I mean, maybe was Wilt a little bit of a dick, maybe?
Yeah,
sure.
He was.
But, I mean, I don't know.
Numbers-wise, though, he's... it's hard to argue. I mean, dude, this 1961-62 season is probably the greatest individual season anyone's ever had. And honestly, I don't think it'll ever be matched.
No, I don't think anybody's out there going to be snagging that many rebounds at all. Less than that many points.
He averaged, in 1961-62, he averaged 50.4 points per game, 25.7 rebounds per game on 50.6% shooting from the field. I mean, that's, like, unheard of. And, dude, he didn't win MVP that year.
Who the fuck won MVP?
Dude, 1962 might be one of the best years ever as far as, like, individual performances. Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double that year.
Okay.
Bill Russell was in the middle of, like, his titleship run during that time. He was averaging, like, 17 and 20, and they gave him the MVP.
I could understand if you give the triple-double.
Yeah.
Anything else doesn't make sense to me at all.
So, I was like, this is crazy.
I see how he's a bit of a dick. He's been completely slept on.
Yeah.
In the videos you were showing me, with MJ, he's pissed. People are discrediting him for no reason.
Yeah.
He's mad as hell. If you look at these stats, I'm getting mad. I have no personal stake in this.
So,
I'm a little angry now.
So, back then, the players voted for MVP. And the players didn't like Wilt.
They all.
There you go.
They thought he was a terrible teammate.
So let's not bring up MVPs anymore in this conversation about Wilt.
It honestly, it kind of
just completely the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, it really just doesn't make much sense.
When did they stop being able to vote? That's what I want to know now.
I don't know,
because
to be honest with you,
because like that's shitty. Because I mean, like Russell Westbrook, like. I mean, I guess people are kind of divided on him, but like a lot of people hate him. Like, he would never fucking come close to winning one.
What is your reason then, other than the shit that other players said about Wilt, for not putting Wilt in the conversation with Kareem, LeBron, and Jordan?
I just don't think he won enough. I think honestly he I mean, look, it's right here. He underperformed in big games and stuff. And when you match up with someone that many times, Bill Russell.
I thought we decided that he didn't underperform in big games.
He did though, because there's no way Wilt Chamberlain shouldn't at least had 4 or 5 champions. If he'd had 4 or 5, there'd be no debate ever from me. And it also doesn't hurt.
But was that not because of the Boston Celtics and how stacked they were?
Now, so I'm glad you brought that up, because Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, although at times it got a little testy between them, they remained really good friends afterwards. And Bill Russell did an interview this was after Wilt Chamberlain died, so obviously, there wasn't much that Wilt Chamberlain could say. But Bill Russell said that when they made up, Wilt Chamberlain admitted to him that those Celtics teams would not have been as good with him as they were with Bill, because Wilt would not have been able to change his style of play the way Bill Russell did. So it's like, Wilt finally gave it up. Like, all right, man, like you got the best of me, but I'm still the better player. I think Wilt Chamberlain's a better player than Bill Russell. I don't think there's any argument to say otherwise. But in order to be a GOAT, you gotta win more than what he did.
I agree with that, but and I don't know how the refereeing was back then. But
it really, when you watch it, it's not really as physical as they make it out to seem. They called pretty ticky-tack fouls back then.
Really?
And a lot of complaining,
a lot
too. Wilt Chamberlain was a big-time complainer.
Well, it sounds like that sounds from his personality.
Yeah.
But my point, though, would be...
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're... The season, he's putting up those ridiculous stats every year.
Mm-hmm.
Every year
Mm-hmm.
in the season.
Mm-hmm.
In the playoffs, it drops off a bit. It's still really good,
okay,
but it drops off a bit. Teams are hacking you. They're taking you away and making the team the other team, part of your team, beat you.
Mm-hmm.
And that they're not winning because they can't. I feel like he got, you have to defend with. I would have to watch these games, so I don't know how many games that they were televised that we can clearly see, but it just seems like that's got to be the reason, because there's no way you put up those consistent stats against those same teams.
Okay,
and then. What were his stats against the Celtics in the regular season?
They're 22.9 points or 29.9 points a game.
So the same as a playoff. So
yeah, well, no, his playoffs were a little bit lower.
Same as his career stats.
Yeah, same as career
stats. Okay, all right,
but look at Russell Westbrook's numbers though. Russell Westbrook, just numbers wise, it's some of the greatest numbers ever by a point guard.
Yeah, for sure.
But you would never say Russell Westbrook's.
No, because same problem.
Because he didn't win. That's what I'm saying. That's my biggest problem with Wilt.
He was taking better percentage.
I think Bill Russell had something
is also
here.
a bit inefficient.
He is very.
Right,
and Wilt Chamberlain was not.
And he turns the ball over. Yeah. He has measurable ways in which he can be a detriment to his team.
That's true.
Wilt does not.
That's true. I would agree with that. I think Bill Russell had something here, a love for the game, that I don't necessarily think Wilt Chamberlain had. Bill Russell used to throw up before every playoff game. I don't know if Wilt Chamberlain did that, and that to me is
regardless of whether he threw up or not.
All right, go ahead.
What years did Wilt make the playoffs? Roughly, which?
I think he made them.
Did he make them every year that he was with the Lakers?
Pretty much every year, yeah.
So and how many? Total, before the Lakers, do you think he made it half the time or something? Because what I'm just trying to figure out is I'm trying to look at his stats year by year and do a rough weighted average and just see if his numbers actually went down in the playoffs. Because to me, it doesn't seem like they did.
Oh, you're saying because he stopped scoring?
Because the most of his playoff appearances were when he was with LA, and if you look at his season by season stats when he was with LA, they were lower because he changed his style of play.
So if they only had 8 teams back then, didn't everyone have to make the playoffs? What are they going to do? Just one round of the playoffs?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I feel we definitely should have looked at that.
Yeah, we should have looked at
that.
Dude, that was a short playoff.
Corey, this is on you. You make these numbers.
No, it is a little bit on me.
That's how a team can win that.
Dude, honestly, I was running out of room.
Even if that's true, he's going to go deeper in the playoffs and play more total games when he's with the Lakers, right? A better team.
So I think it's important to mention, though, during that 1961-62 season, the year he averaged 50 points per game, he also averaged 48 and a half minutes a game, which if you know anything about basketball, there's only 48 minutes in a game. So he literally never sat out a second, and he played the overtime games as well. He only missed 8 minutes the whole season because he got kicked out of the game. Dude, that was back before Nike. That was back before medical staff. They weren't flying private. There was no daily MRI.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, to me,
superhuman.
To me, that is the most, I cannot believe the NBA is not screaming that from the mountaintop. There should be a statue in front of every arena just celebrating. Dude, Never rested, never got tired, and the production didn't drop. It's crazy. Dude, we always say, like, dude, LeBron's got to save it for the playoffs, you know? Wilt Chamberlain didn't have to save anything.
Yeah, and they were built freakishly, like, especially Wilt, too. Like, to be able to do that, like, 48 minutes and all that. That's
in Converse.
Yeah.
Those were, like, just, what do you call that material? I can't think of it right now.
Kind of cloth.
Yeah, cloth. Yeah, those are fucking cloth. And this man's foot got to be like a size 14.
It's crazy, dude.
Like, Zion popped out of his Nike. Sorry, Nike.
Dude,
he broke right through them things.
You know, Wilt Chamberlain is the reason why the free throw, the ball has to hit the rim before you can go below the free throw line if you're shooting a free throw. It's because of Wilt Chamberlain. Before that rule was invented, he would stand a couple feet back from the free throw line, take off from the free throw line, and dunk it. And then they were like, okay, we can't have that. You know? So literally because of Wilt Chamberlain, they changed that rule. They also widened the lane because of Wilt Chamberlain as well. He literally changed the fundamental things.
They changed the lane.
Yeah, because of Wilt Chamberlain.
Because they wanted to make the 3 seconds more difficult.
I think so.
So they changed the 3 seconds.
Yeah, because
and then they widened the lane because that wasn't enough. And then they had to change the free throw rule because you're dunking from the free throw line.
That's why the other players hated him. They were like, they're changing the game for this dickhead.
Yeah.
They're I don't know.
Well, you got
Despite all that, his career stats, I mean.
It's unbelievable.
It really was him versus everybody. Like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's these numbers, like, okay, so this was also the year he put up 100 points in one game in the 1961-62 season. What's interesting about this, there's some controversy about this game because it happened in Hershey, Pennsylvania, in a arena, not televised, and there's a conspiracy out there that he never really scored 100 points.
Of course there is.
Look, Wilt Chamberlain was a career 51% free throw shooter. He shot like 26 of 30 from the line that night. That's a little weird.
Who was there?
Bill Russell says.
Why is that weird for him to do that on the night that he scored 100? He had a good night shooting.
I guess.
If you have a good night shooting free throws and you're taking a lot of free throws, that's going to inflate.
You know, that's the only game in NBA history to not end either. When he scored 100 points, everyone rushed on the court, and the game never ended. There was like 40 seconds left.
Wow.
Little fun fact there.
Could have scored 102.
Probably could have got 102 out there. Dude, they were
no.
The New York Knicks were literally holding the ball. They didn't want Wilt to get the ball, so they would just hold it for 24 seconds, even though they were down like 15. Like, they just didn't care.
That's hilarious. That's like in Bobby Boucher, that movie, they refused to play offense.
Yeah.
They were like, punt the ball, you can't do anything about it. That shit's incredible.
Bill Russell says he was at that game.
Well,
However, Bill Russell also had a game that night in a different city. It's a little weird. A little weird that he would say. Look, Bill Russell's 114 million years old, so he probably just got his nights mixed up. But, you know.
Yeah.
They used to keep track of your points and stuff by hand back then. They interviewed the guy who actually kept track of the points and stuff. And, I mean, he seems like he kind of plays into it a little bit. You could tell he's like, did he score 100? You know, like, yeah. I think, look, whether or not he did it or not.
Great penmanship, you know, could have been misread.
Yeah. What's crazy, though, is a lot of times Wilt Chamberlain would do interviews after he retired. And, you know, he was actually getting interest from GMs up until, like, 1989. He was, like, in his 50s. They still wanted him to come back as a defender and rebounder. Yeah. And I mean, and there was talks about him coming back, even in his 50s. Yeah.
That many rebounds. Like, if you can just rebound the ball that many times and kick it out, I would love to have that now on any team.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I think he could steal
in like current NBA, like right now.
It's probably Dwight Howard, right? Right now?
No.
Like all time. Okay.
Well, yeah, like current NBA.
You're asking like who is the best rebounder currently in the NBA?
Yeah, like you know,
all time. Well, Andre Drummond's pretty good rebounder
I was just
too.
thinking, like, Drummond, he had the most recent, like,
Yeah.
ridiculous, absolute.
Like 30 rebound game
it
or
was, I'll
something.
say it was more than 20. It had to have been. Maybe
Yeah.
like upper 20s.
Yeah, I think he had a 20-30
It was
game or
absurd.
something.
And I
Yeah.
was sitting there hearing all these rumors for a long time of him being a free agent. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, he's on the Sixers now.
Yeah.
Dude, Andre Drummond, if he was playing in the 90s, would be one of the best centers of that decade. But because he's in today's NBA, he just doesn't fit. And it's weird because you look at a guy like that and you want him on your team. He's like a big guy,
Oh, yeah.
massive, can finish with either hand, like a rebound, but it just doesn't work in small ball. Like he looks out of place.
He does. He really did in the Lakers.
Mhm.
He looked absolutely.
It never worked with him and Anthony Davis. Like it just never did. Though, what about Dennis Schroeder?
He has to feel sick.
He
Wow.
he was set. So the Lakers offered him like 4 years, $85 million. He turned
During
it
the
down.
season.
Yeah, during the
They
season
were
extension.
really willing to.
He turned it down, and he was like, "I can get more money elsewhere." No one made him an offer. He's about to have to sign back for like $10 million to the
He's
Lakers.
already put Lakers
Yeah.
point guard back in his Instagram.
He's gonna be the backup point guard to Russell Westbrook.
He's probably upset.
Don't let your pride get in the way of your contract talks.
Exactly.
Like let that be a lesson to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say,
Does
get
not
your
work
money.
most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let your agent do his job.
Oh, I would trust my agent, so I wouldn't have none of that. I'd be like, if you advise me, I mean,
Yeah.
you would have to advise me to take.
If you advise me that I'm too trash to
to
make the money that I think I deserve, I will listen to you.
it's kind of crazy he didn't get an offer though. Like he's definitely good enough to get. I mean, some of these guys getting offers, dude. Duncan Robinson's getting $90 million.
Well,
Dennis Schroeder can't get no money.
and Lonzo went to the Bulls.
I like
for
Lonzo, though.
No, yeah, but like absolutely. But I mean, would you take? You're telling me a team that's going to pay him $80 million isn't going to pay
Dennis Schroeder,
at
yeah.
least 80, 89 million?
I would
Duncan
rather
Robinson is getting paid.
I would rather have Lonzo than Dennis Schroeder because Lonzo's 6'7" and he's a good defender.
Yeah,
and
he's a much better defender. And his shot has gotten.
no,
His shot's got a lot.
he's actually good. Like he can actually shoot. Like and I think guys like playing with him.
I'm glad he's going to be on the Bulls to play LaMelo 4 times a year.
Dude, the
I'm
Bulls,
glad he stayed in the East. Like,
Yeah, that'll be
Bulls
cool.
are legit, man. They got
They
DeMar
were-
DeRozan.
right. I thought they were losing Levine
Mm-hmm.
and to get all this stuff. To still have Levine, that team is going to be pretty fun. To
They're
watch.
gonna be pretty good. I could see them honestly. You know, like I think you got to say the Brooklyn Nets are probably going to be the favorites in the East,
Well, yes.
and then Milwaukee because they won the chip. But then the Bulls, dude. And honestly, you know, if an injury happens or something, I like that Bulls team. Only thing I don't like is that center, Vucevic. Dude, soft.
I've heard.
He's skilled.
I
He's soft.
don't know. I've seen the slander, lots of slander. I don't really have enough to give a valid opinion, but I'll hate all day.
Yeah. I wanted
That's
DeMar.
Just tell me who.
I wanted DeMar on the Lakers, dude. Like I love DeMar DeRozan.
There was like 4 rumors going around.
Yeah.
Somebody said something about the Bulls. I was like, eh. But I do like it. Everybody's like, yo, get me the hell up out of San Antonio.
Yeah, DeMar slept on. Like people
No,
forgot.
For sure. His playoff, him and Lowry got trashed for the playoff stuff. Lowry got to make that up, and DeMar didn't. But he's still a very, very fun player to watch. He's
Yeah.
a very, very talented player.
Skilled too.
I think
he's
the
really
Bulls
skilled.
got a really good revamp. Honestly, like they're gonna go back to playing like.
I like that team.
Who's
Dude.
their coach right now? I'm blanking completely. Who's gonna be running this team? Because Levine's been there a long time. He's a vet, but still, you know.
I don't even know. To be honest with you,
I have no idea.
they've been so bad so long that I just haven't really paid much.
Right, that's
I
what
like
I'm
Zach LaVine though. Zach LaVine averaged 27 last year.
Dude, in
Damn,
NBA,
Yeah,
too,
dude.
that man used to absolutely. I would simulate Bulls games, dead ass. He shit on me every
Yeah.
time. He's nasty. Am I basing my whole opinion on him versus on a video game? Mostly because I don't watch the Bulls.
Who does?
Exactly, especially when the Hornets.
Only the people who make NBA 2K watch the Bulls.
Exactly. They do it so we don't have to.
That's true.
So that you can simulate the game.
I'm glad we're talking about current. I'm sorry, Corey. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything. I was just wiping my head.
Oh,
So
sorry.
the Lakers, who they get? Melo, Ariza.
Yeah.
Who else did they get?
Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk,
Malik Monk was the only young one.
Wayne
Well,
Ellington.
37.
They got Wayne Ellington,
Nice.
and I think that's it. All right. Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, well, just tossing him in there.
Yeah.
But did you see Cody Zeller's going to Portland?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. Can't say. It makes me kind of sad, but not really.
Like would I like to see him in a jersey? Yes, on the bench.
Yes.
Well, he wants to play. He's good enough to get in there and help an offense.
He's been a consistent 10 and 7 his whole career.
I mean, he's a meat and potatoes guy. He's
not going to blow you away.
Exactly. He's not going to win you games.
He's good for one crazy highlight dunk a year, though.
Yeah, he is, dude. He was actually really athletic coming out of college. He always
you'd feel silly.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't look at you.
And you just look at him, and you look at that bald spot, and you're like, how can he do that?
When I think Hick from French Lick about Larry Bird, now that you all, I didn't know that was a nickname, to be honest, until that episode we did. But I see Cody Zeller as the Hick from French Lick when I see that. I mean, he's from Indiana too, right?
Yeah. No, I don't know. Is he from?
I think
maybe
he
just went to
is.
school there, but I thought he was from Indiana, like homegrown boy. He seems like
he kind of sounds like it too.
Yeah, he seems like
sounds like an Indiana farm boy.
But nah, I'm excited to talk about current NBA though because of the Hornets. I'm hyped on the Hornets. Did you see the
who they get?
Yeah, Kai Jones.
Okay.
I'm not
James Booknight.
I was Booknight. I was not gonna. That's kind of what I was gonna say. I don't know what I would have thought, but no, we're stupid athletic.
Athleticism, size. I mean,
we addressed
Booknight is NBA ready too.
Yeah.
Kai might not be, but Booknight.
Yeah, but I don't know. I hated losing Malik. I really hated losing Malik, but it makes a lot of sense. And Devontae, love Devontae too. Yeah, I'm gonna pay him that much, but that means are we looking at keeping Terry?
Yeah,
I guess so. And that's
Michael Jordan likes.
I love Terry
because I kind of
think he adds a real toughness to the squad.
Well, but it's just like. I mean, look, I think we got good value for Devontae Graham, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it was just coming off of a fluky bad year. Not even fluky, but not even fluky. We just had 3 point guards.
Right.
So he was
hurt. He had a hurt knee and there was
hurt knee and all these things.
It wasn't 100%.
We could have gotten him for cheap, in my opinion.
Oh, we didn't have to pay him.
And then instead of paying Terry Rozier, who's aging, right? Like not that he's showing any signs of regressing, but it's coming.
No,
So, I don't know.
That year, what he added to the team last year, I thought was just, the clutch buckets just by themselves.
He was so fun to watch last year.
Dude, he was going crazy, man. And if you look at the team's demeanor now, since he's been on the bench, they have so much more fun. He's always out there, and then you add LaMelo to that too. Miles Bridges. We have a fun team to watch. I'm excited. And
I actually started watching the Hornets last year for the first time.
Dude, I bullied you. I was dragging I tried to get everybody in on that. Sam, I knew I would get Sam because of his emotion to the game. He's always been a big basketball fan. But
if I can watch a Bobcats team that won 7 games,
jeez,
right? We used to go to those games, but I can understand not wanting to come back because they hurt you. They hurt you bad, man.
Dude. Kemba Walker's going to the Knicks.
I heard that was a rumor. Is that
they agreed to a buyout and he's going to the Knicks.
I really like that a lot. Who Randall stayed.
Yeah, Randall stayed. They still got RJ Barrett too. They're gonna be a fun Knicks team next year. They kind of needed that second scorer, so.
Yeah, well RJ, I was a Duke fan, a little bit. I was kind of stopped watching around that time, but I was never super high on him at Duke, and so I followed him a little bit his rookie year and stuff. But what numbers is he putting up? Is he that good?
Who? Julius Randle?
No.
RJ Barrett. He's not that good.
Yeah,
he's alright.
He kind of just put his head at Duke. Anyway, I hadn't watched a lot since then, but he just puts his head down, or just put his head down and just attack the basket. I'm if it works out, whatever.
Yeah. So, he scored 100 points in the game. What's interesting, though, about Wilt Chamberlain is when you watch interviews with him, they always ask him, they did the same thing with Michael Jordan as well. How many points would you average today, And Wilt Chamberlain always said, I'm being nice when I say this, between 65 and 70 points a game. And most of the time when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, this guy is delusional. However, in that 1961-62 season, before he scored that 100-point game, he was averaging for a 10-game stretch, 70 points a game. And back then, they didn't, in the 90s sometime, I think it happened in the 80s and it carried over to the 90s. They made that illegal defense rule where you could no longer double out of the post. They would call illegal defense on you. And so Wilt was saying, with the way the game's played today, I could probably score that many points. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if he could get to 70, but he would probably have another 50-point type season in his prime.
I mean, I think it's definitely possible. I don't want to say that's blasphemous that he said that.
Yeah.
But I feel like he'd have been like getting pickpocketed. Like, I mean, I feel like
I'm gonna go on record. I do not think that is possible and that would happen.
Dude, I think Wilt Chamberlain
65-70.
He's so stat obsessed, he would have died trying.
He would have died.
I think he would have died trying out there.
But like, no, today's game, somebody would have been like, I'm gonna figure out how to take the ball from him before he gets a chance, and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
or would just flop. They'd flop.
Yeah, I mean, I think defense is a lot better now than it used to be.
What's crazy, though, is after that season, the 1962-63 season, first of all, the team moved to San Francisco after that, from Philly to San Francisco. So now he's on the San Francisco Warriors. I mean, that year, he went from 50.4 points to 44.8 points. So he still had just an unbelievable year the next year. 24 rebounds, 52.8% field goal percentage. And I mean, the next year after that, 36.9, 22.3 rebounds, 52.4%. And then from there, I mean, again, 34.7, 22, 51% field goal percentage. And then the team's bad, and he requests a trade to the Philadelphia 76ers. I guess because he was in Philadelphia for that amount of time. And then
I didn't know they went to San Francisco, and that's hilarious. And the fact that he went immediately back.
It also like puts his numbers into perspective. Like Steph Curry this year just passed Wilt Chamberlain for like the all-time Warriors scorer. Mm-hmm. But when you look at it, Wilt Chamberlain only played like 5 seasons with him, and he was averaging like 41 and 20. like it's just insane that like Steph Curry's been in the league for over a decade, and he just now passed his record. So it kind of puts into perspective just how many points this guy was actually scoring. It's crazy.
He's scoring at a rate that is never going to be touched.
Yep. Again. And so after that, he goes one more season with Philadelphia. 33.5, 24 rebounds, 54%. That's in 1965-66. After that, his coach, he gets a new coach. Coach says, hey, look, you're doing too much on offense. We need you to reel back the offense, focus on defense and rebounding. That's when he dropped down to the 24 and 24 on 68% shooting. And they won the championship that year.
68% shooting.
Yep. So 68% shooting, 24-24, and they win. They beat Bill Russell's Celtics. And this is when everyone's like, oh, snap, like Bill Russell's done, is Wilt Chamberlain. Beats Bill Russell's Celtics. Goes up against the Warriors in the championship. Rick Barry's on that team. And beats them and wins the chip. They didn't have finals MVP back then because they didn't start that until 1969. Yeah. But rest assured, Wilt Chamberlain would have got it. Yeah. So, yeah. And then, so it's pretty interesting because the next season after that, again, pretty much 24 and 24. He's averaging 24.3, 23.8 rebounds, 59% shooting, so a little bit less efficient. But he decides to lead the league in assists that year. The number to hit was 8.6 assists a game, and he led the league in assists. Now, if you look at that, if he would have known triple doubles was a thing, he would have for sure averaged a triple double that year.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he seemed to whatever he wanted to do. That was what he was going to do.
The number he had to beat was 8.6, so that's what he got. Yeah, like, that's what it was. They don't win the championship that year. Wilt Chamberlain's upset. They don't win the chip. He asked for a trade. He's really the first player to demand a trade, like the first superstar to be like, I want out.
If it's going to be anybody, it's going to be the guy that scored 100 points.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's what's interesting. So the Lakers don't want him. They took a team vote, and the team voted they didn't want him.
They took a team vote?
Took a team vote, decided they didn't want him. They made the trade anyway. Wilt Chamberlain, he was a wild guy back in the day. His reason for wanting to leave was he wanted to bang white women in L.A.
I remember that. I forgot all about that.
I don't know if y'all know this. Wilt Chamberlain was a little bit of a ladies' man back in the day. Claims to have slept with 20,000 women.
I mean, that's not true.
Yeah.
That's way too high.
Humanly impossible.
It's pretty high.
How many days are in a year? How many years do Wilt live? Like how many girls would that have to be a day?
I think he put up like Hall of Fame numbers for sure, but you know,
obviously, but
that's basically a different girl every day. If my math is
no, even more than that. You'd have to be like 10 women a day. It's something crazy, dude. If you like, depends on how many years. Because I watched the interview with Wilt when he did Howard Stern, and he said he actually lost his virginity at 5 years old.
Oh, okay.
You'd have to be banging one girl a day for 55 years. One new girl a day.
Yeah, but you got to figure, dude, a prime Wilt Chamberlain.
He's probably getting them
in L.A.
But that's true.
Prime Wilt Chamberlain in L.A.
You know, I just think he
look, he padded the stats. Let's get real. Let's get real. Those numbers, I think he put up. He did say, I will say, when he did Conan, he did say, I have found that having one woman 1,000 different ways is better than having 1,000 women one way. So he learned something positive out of it. Now I'll give him that.
He learned that on the 19,999.
Yeah, it took him a little while. He had to do some research, you know. He's thorough with his exams. But so, okay. He forces the trade to LA. And at this point, Wilt has kind of entered a different phase of his career. He pulled back from scoring. I think that's like even he would admit that today, that it was his decision to stop scoring. It wasn't because he couldn't stop scoring. And every once in a while, people would be like, oh, Wilt can't score anymore. He would have 3 games in a row of like 60, 60, and 70 just to show him like, no, I can still score. I just don't. Like that's something that like that just has to be amazing. Like if everyone's like, Wilt, you can't do it anymore. He's like, watch next game.
Yeah, 70 when the team loses.
Yeah.
See?
Coach, God.
And we kind of already talked about the 1971-72 season because of Jerry West. That was the year they broke through and won the championship. So when he went to L.A., they had Elgin Baylor on the tail end of his prime. Jerry West is getting a little bit older as well. They had a pretty good team, though. They end up...
He had a pretty well-known choker, too.
Who, Jerry West?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although it was never really his fault. It's just his team. And they went up against the Boston Celtics. And the Celtics back then were, you know... But
I don't remember if that was the episode I did. I think that was the one I listened to.
Yeah, that was probably it. But Wilt Chamberlain, he goes to LA. They end up making the finals the next 2 years in a row. They lose both of them. I think in 1969 they went up against the Boston Celtics. That was the big game where Game 7, and they stuck balloons up at the top in LA at the Forum, and they were ready to let them drop, and they end up losing the game.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, and Wilt Chamberlain in the fourth quarter gets hurt. He tears his meniscus or something like that in his knee, and he has to be taken out of the game. And then, you know, the Jerry West goes on a run, hits like 4 threes in a row. The coach did not, well, not 4 threes because there was a 3-point line, but 4 long, 2-pointers. The coach did not like Wilt Chamberlain. And Wilt Chamberlain did not like the coach. Wilt Chamberlain actually publicly humiliated the coach and said, like, he didn't know what he was doing and stuff like that. So it's like the final minutes of the game. The medical person goes over and says, hey, the Big Dipper's ready to get back in. And the coach says, to hell with him. We don't need him. And they end up losing the game. And Bill Russell retires with 11 championships in 13 years. And Wilt still got 1 championship at that point. Next year after that, they make the finals. They go up against the New York Knicks. New York Knicks beat them in 5 games or something like that. Jerry West had 2 broke thumbs. The year after that, Milwaukee breaks through in 1971. Breaks through. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar gets his ring with aging Oscar Robertson on the roster as well. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar became a champion before Jerry West, which is pretty crazy. That was Kareem's second year in the league, and I mean he got a Finals MVP his second year in the league. So then after that, 1972, everything kind of comes together. Wilt Chamberlain, at this point in his career in 1972, 14 points a game, 19 rebounds, 65% shooting. He really just stopped scoring and just was like, I'm doing all the little things. Jerry West, Elgin Baylor actually retired like 8 games into that season, so he technically never became a champion. But they win 33 games in a row that year. They end up breaking through and getting the NBA championship. Wilt Chamberlain gets the Finals MVP. So he ended up with a Finals MVP. Just to read off some of his stats. Oh, by the way, the next season after that, 13.2 points per game, 18.6 rebounds, 72% shooting. Then he retires after that. He becomes the ABA head coach of the San Diego Conquistadors.
Sick name.
Dog, they said that he would show up like in the middle of the first quarter. They said he was literally like the worst coach ever. He ends up quitting that. He starts doing like volleyball and stuff.
That's interesting.
We missed the part
Yeah.
though when he was in college at Kansas City. He tried out for like the shot put and like the long jump or whatever, and he had like world records in those events.
When your arms are that long,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine how far he could throw a shot put, whatever that's called.
World records, though? Seriously?
Yeah. He's also got 3 numbers retired. Number 13. He's got it with the Harlem Globetrotters, the Philadelphia Warriors, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the LA Lakers. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
100 points in a game. If you look at the list of like the top 5 best scoring performances, it's like the Wilt Chamberlain show. It's just straight Wilt Chamberlain. 72 NBA records, 68 of them just by himself. One thing's interesting, Wilt Chamberlain kind of groomed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Kind of what?
Groomed him a little
Groomed
bit.
him?
Yeah, he met Kareem when Kareem was like 15. And they just met in New York, and they were like playing a pickup basketball game, and they just became friends. And Kareem would like hang out with Wilt all the time and stuff. And it was funny watching an interview with Kareem because he was just like, I got a chance to observe his lifestyle, and whew, that's what he said. It was so funny. It was he said they got on the elevator one time, and they're both 7-foot giants, and a short guy gets on the elevator and says, "How's the weather up there?" And Wilt Chamberlain spit on him and said, "Oh, it's raining."
Come on.
No, that's what Kareem said.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard. Oh, my God.
That's just it's so funny. Like a human being would do that to somebody. Like, it's
And
crazy.
you don't just think about that. He like
Yeah, he was waiting for that.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm so tired of people asking me how's the weather up here.
All these stats,
Oh, I would have fucking killed him. Yeah.
all these stats
You
up
would've
here.
died.
I can tell you the most impressive thing that Wilt Chamberlain did. Only guy to block Kareem's skyhook.
Hilarious.
Only guy in
I would put
history
that on
to
my
block that skyhook.
tombstone.
As a matter of fact, Kareem, they interviewed Kareem. I just watched the documentary on Kareem, so that's how I'm bringing up all these Kareem stories. But Kareem, there was like, has anyone ever blocked that shot of yours? He's like, Wilt got it a couple times when I was a rookie, and then he never got it again. It was just funny.
You
Like,
have one person blocking you, you're gonna make sure that never fucking happens again.
yeah,
Or he
it's,
just never shot it on Wilt. Or he waited for Wilt to get old enough.
yeah. Well, yeah. Those last couple of years with the Lakers, he was,
Yeah.
And he's the one that called him Wilt Chamberlain.
yeah. Kareem did.
Yeah, and he was his mentor from the age of 15.
He was until
that
they.
He had
relationship
sex. He had sex with somebody that
He had
Kareem
to.
was involved with, and that's the only way he would call him. Because like
No.
Chump back then was like I don't know what it equated to, but like if you watch like old movies and stuff, like you ever watch Pistol Pete?
Yeah.
They were ready to fight over Bonehead
Hmm.
back then.
Yeah.
So like Chamberlain, that was like to us it's funny now. He probably saw that and was like, ooh, like mad.
You're hilarious.
So I think yeah, I mean see the thing is that they only played like their seasons only overlap like 3 seasons. By Kareem's 3rd year, Wilt was out of the league.
Right. So like that had to have been a personal beef, like outside of basketball, I feel like.
Yeah, and I also think though, like if you go back and look at like Wilt did say some like pretty wild things to the media, like about Kareem, and I just think Kareem kind of, if you look back at Kareem's career, he's kind of always been that way, where he doesn't say anything, but when he does say it, like he hits them where it hurts. So it's kind of messed up, but I think they made up before they passed away. Dude, it's crazy. So Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell were really good friends, right? And the media, because they were the two best guys of their generation, the two centers, they won MVP. They were battling. They faced each other, I think, 8 times in the playoffs, and Bill Russell won 7 of them in 4 games, went to a game 7, and all 4 games were decided by less than 9 points total.
Oh, wow.
So they were really close games, and it could have went either way. But for some reason, Bill Russell just kept ending up on top. And I think for a long time, Wilt Chamberlain just kind of resented that had happened, because statistically, there's no question, but Wilt Chamberlain blows Bill Russell out of the.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not even close.
Scorer. Like that's why they say KD is the best scorer of all time, but you're not ready to say like number 1, but like he's one of the best scorers of all time.
I think he's the most unstoppable scorer of all time.
Yeah,
but the greatest scorer of all time is Wilt Chamberlain. And then number 2 is probably Kareem, and then number 3 is probably Jordan. That's probably the way I look at it.
You don't think Jordan's a better scorer than Kareem?
I mean, all-time points-wise, no. Averages, yeah, but Kareem also played 20 years, so the latter half of his career he wasn't scoring as much. Those early day Kareems, though, he was getting 30 and 15, like 35 and 15. Like, it was not. I don't know, dude. It's tough.
Yeah, you're right. The tail end is.
Yeah, those last couple of years, Kareem was only getting in crunch time, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I think there was, unfortunately, I think when you have 2 competitive guys, like Wilt Chamberlain to that point was the greatest player ever. Kareem comes along, starting to threaten it a little bit, got the sky hook, and I just think naturally they're going to end up butting heads. It's the same thing with Bill Russell. Dude, in 1969, after that finals game, they interviewed Bill Russell and about Wilt Chamberlain's injury. And Bill said, I mean, the only way I wouldn't have played is if I couldn't have walked or something. He said something like that. And Wilt Chamberlain never forgot that.
Yeah, he definitely seems like a guy that would hold a grudge.
Yeah.
For sure. In those videos you're showing me, he was very, very angry. Like, you could tell the tone of his voice. He was trying to act like he was cool with it, but he was so pissed. Like,
yeah.
Are you mad that people say Michael better than you?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
he did give Michael his due, though. You know?
No, he wasn't completely
bad. Yeah, he did always say, like, everyone in the league should give Michael 10% of their check. Because he was, and also you got to remember, back in the '60s, like
no.
Michael Jordan doing those athletic dunks and stuff was frowned upon back when Wilt Chamberlain played. Like, he even said, like, if a guy would have did a windmill dunk back when we were playing, the coach would have benched him and the crowd would have booed him, because it was just basketball wasn't seen as entertainment back then.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. It's crazy.
Like, boo!
You could tell in the 80s when basketball started becoming more entertainment, because the refs started like getting personalities and like over exaggerating call. It's hilarious to watch.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah,
I've never seen the ref do what you just did.
I would say go back to 1969 and then work your way, like watch a game in the 70s and then watch one in the 80s. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. That's when they figured out, like, oh, snap, like, this is entertainment.
Oh, people don't want to be bored when they watch this.
Right. Like, you notice, like...
I would tell the refs to get more funky with it.
Yeah.
Before you let the players.
Dude, they would. Like, you
That's
could...
just so stupid.
They used to, like, mic up the refs, too. So, like, you could, like, hear whenever they were like, that's not a foul. Or, you know, like, you could hear it. Like, it was pretty cool.
Because as much as they complain these days, like, we'd be hearing it all the time. I don't want to hear that.
They missed a prime time opportunity, though. During the bubble, no crowd, right. Dude, mic up the players. Let's hear a little chatter.
Like make me feel like I'm in the middle. Like make me feel like I'm in the middle of a 2-3.
No more technical fouls on trash talk. That's a rule. If I was in there, mic up the players and then charge extra for people to be able to listen to it. Dude, how much is it? I'll pay double. I'm watching that shit every time. Like, there's no way I'm not going to listen to them talk trash.
Yeah, just say it's rated R and move on.
They should do it like the UFC. Make it like a pay-per-view so you don't have to edit. You don't have to bleep out everything.
Yeah. Right. That would be phenomenal, because my favorite sports mic'd up moment ever was Ed Reed getting face masked or something, held on a punt he was trying to block, ran all the way down the field and fucking annihilated the dude. And it was like, "Fuck, boy." I was just like, "Oh, he ran 60 yards to tell you that." That's gold. I will pay for that.
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain also is unofficially the number 1 all-time in most blocks in a game. 27 blocks in a game. They didn't count him back then, but someone tallied him up, said he had 27.
Someone swears to God. Someone
Yeah.
swears to God.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, can we 20?
That's what they said.
Can you imagine how many shots are there? How like he must have blocked every single shot that somebody took on him.
Yeah.
Like
I can't imagine him take a 28 shot on him.
I can't even believe somebody took. The whole team took 27 shots on him the whole game, like on him. You know?
Phil Jackson played on those New York Knicks teams in like the early 70s, and he said he had to play center one time because their 2 centers were hurt and he had to play backup center. And he said that he blocked Wilt Chamberlain, and Wilt Chamberlain was like, "You just made a mistake," and blocked him 6 straight times in a row. After that, every time he touched the ball. And then there was a rookie that came out averaging like 30-some points a year. Or 30-some points a game, his rookie season. First time playing against Wilt Chamberlain. I forgot the damn rookie's name. I can't believe it. But first time playing Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain goes, it was like, you won't make a shot at this end of the basket. Blocked him 9 times in the first half. After the first half, walks up to him and says, "All right, you can play now, Rook." And it just keeps going.
That would ruin my career. Like the way Muggsy said MJ ruined his, that would be pretty much it for me.
So Magic Johnson used to play pickup games during the summers at UCLA and play with some of the college kids at UCLA. Well, one day Wilt Chamberlain just happened to stop by. And so they're playing a little bit of pickup basketball game. Magic Johnson does a little floater. Wilt grabs it out of the air, and Magic says that's goaltended. Game over. Goaltended. And then they turn to the coach. Coach says, "That didn't look like goaltending to me." Wilt says, "All right, we're going to play again to 12. There won't be one basket made on this side." And the coach said, and Magic Johnson.
Coach.
I think so. Both the coach and Magic Johnson said he blocked every single shot. These guys can't be lying. I'm sorry, they just can't.
It doesn't shock me. The dude, what was his vertical?
50 inches.
50 inches.
That's insane. The fact that his knees didn't disintegrate as big as he was, like, that's incredible.
When Wilt was in his 40s, he went to a house party. Jim Brown, star running back, was in his prime at that party. Wilt challenged him to a race. Wilt Chamberlain beat him in a race of 45. I know, but still, it's pretty impressive. Jim says, let's do a redo. Wilt Chamberlain beats him again.
Well, watching him in those videos, like, he runs like a gazelle. He gets down the court and transition like Russ.
It almost looks fake.
Right, it does. He looks like Russ getting out in transition, but he's giant.
You really don't realize how big he is until that one where he's like shaking Shaq's hand and he's like bigger than Shaq. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, especially for the time. I mean, seriously, like, he must have not been able to go anywhere without someone being like, ah! Like,
So,
a little upset.
I think it was 1996 or 97 when they had the All-Star game and they did like the 50 greatest players ever reunion. And this was the first time Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan had ever met each other. And so they're in the back and they're talking. Bill Walton's telling this story. And he's like, they're in the back and they're arguing and it's getting heated about who's the greatest ever. And like Wilt Chamberlain said, I forgot his exact words they said, but he actually like ended the conversation with Jordan, like before anyone, like typically Jordan never lost an argument because he always had something to say, but Wilt Chamberlain like just ended it in front of everyone, and Jordan's like, all right, dude, like if you're the greatest ever, fine. Like it was just funny that they like Wilt Chamberlain's like in his 50s at that point, and he just can't let it go. No, he's actually in his 60s at that point.
If people gave him his flowers, I feel like he wouldn't be quite. I mean, his personality definitely. But like when you just get kicked under the rug, like people, and I would have done the same thing. I'd have kicked him under the rug. I'm like, nah, fuck you, MJ, man. Because like I watched MJ. If I, from that time, like I don't know, man. Like he got shafted, knowing more about him. But like
he did a little bit, yeah. Well, not a little bit, a lot.
He definitely did because everybody obviously gave all that adoration he was wanting to Mike, and now he's having to like. People are saying, nah, he's better. But numbers though.
So I mean, the one legitimate reason that you can give to say that Wilt is not the greatest of all time and does not belong in that conversation is the era. So then I guess my question is, how can you say the era was that different between Wilt and Kareem? I guess you could say partially the ABA-NBA merger, but I'm not sure that had a ton to do with it. But like the time difference is only like a decade, right?
Between who?
Kareem and Wilt.
They overlap. They
overlap.
Yeah. But yeah, a decade.
Yeah, like on average a decade. So how come Wilt, with his 30 points and 22 rebounds, is viewed as lesser than Kareem? And I get Kareem played a bit longer.
A lot, like 7 years longer.
So okay, total like 19-year career versus like 14-year career.
13 year.
Okay. But
we didn't get to see a prime Kareem and a prime Wilt go at each other. So
no, we didn't. But I guess like why do people like Kareem's career averages were 24 points and 11 rebounds, and Wilt's career averages were 30 points and 22 rebounds. So
I'd be interested to see what Kareem's averages were after his first 13 years. Because those last few dropped off.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about Wilt.
You could. No, there's no doubt. I mean, it's close. That's why I got him 3 and 4. But like, it's hard to argue against like in 10 years won 6 MVPs in 10 years.
Yeah, but I mean, we already talked about the MVPs. But like, come on.
Yeah, but
Wilt deserved to win 6 MVPs.
Yeah,
if
for
the
sure.
Players weren't fucking voting for him.
For sure, he did. And then 6 championships, 1 Finals MVPs, 14 years apart. That's pretty. I mean. Dude, that to me is the most unbelievable. And then obviously,
I mean, it's impressive, but it's nothing that Wilt couldn't have done or didn't do, right? Like,
well, no, the 14 years apart.
Well, that specifically, of course, Wilt didn't do that.
No.
But I'm saying those little anecdotal stats. I think Wilt has for every one anecdotal stat like that Kareem has, Wilt has 2 of them. You know what I mean?
No, there's no doubt about it. Look, I mean, it's tough because then you're weighing longevity versus
and that's an impossible conversation.
That's an impossible conversation.
It's like how do you? I mean, because of course somebody who plays a 10-year career and averages twice as much as somebody who plays a 20-year career, by the end of their career the numbers are the same, but clearly the dude who averaged more is better. So you gotta weight the prime more than the early and late years, but. It comes down to what you value. If you value those greatest seasons more, then you got to say Wilt's better than Kareem. If you value the longevity, you got to say Kareem's better than Wilt. But even with the longevity, I don't know how. Even adjusting for the longevity, because like you can say the longevity, but also Kareem's averages were a lot lower towards the end of his career.
Yeah, for sure. But the thing I like about Kareem is if you go off of his peak year, which I don't know what his average was, but I'm assuming it was in he's probably averaging like mid-30s and 18 rebounds or something. That's not far off from what Wilt Chamberlain was doing in his prime. He had the one season with 50, but most of it's around 30s and close to in the 20s and rebounds. So it's like with Kareem, I know at the peak it might be a little bit lower than Wilt's, but what I do know is I'm going to get 20 years, and I also know I'm getting one of the clutchest guys ever who's a known winner who can fit in any system. Like, I'm just getting a bunch of things. Like, if you're drafting, it's hard for me to argue against, look, if I go with this guy, his peak might not be as high, but it's still pretty damn good, and I'm getting 20 years out of him. And he's got the most unstoppable shot ever. So it's like, I don't know. But with that being said, this is why Wilt is my second favorite player ever. Now, Will ask, did he come too early, just right, or too late? It's definitely not too late.
Yeah, it can't be too late.
No.
Well, I'm going to say too early because if he'd have come a decade later, I think he would have clearly been viewed as better than Kareem.
Probably, yeah.
You're saying probably.
I mean, maybe if he puts up the same exact numbers, but them two
I'm saying, not. It's not a given.
It's not a given. It would be dude. That would be one of the that would be amazing.
I just like if somebody, do we think that the NBA has changed that much more, say a decade, like since 2010, in a decade, than it did between, the what, mid 60s when Wilt came in, and mid 70s when Kareem came in? Like, if we agree that that change is about the same, then how can you look at, because, like, I mean, when you look at averages,
I think after the merger in 1967, in 1976 is when the NBA. That's what's considered the modern NBA
sure, and then
because they added teams.
yeah, and
expanded.
then statistically, modern NBA is like whenever they added the 3-point line. What
Well,
year
that
was
was in
that?
the
80 something.
yeah, it was in the 80s, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean, there's clear differences there, just with the rules, but
It's crazy too to
between
think.
but like the ABA and the NBA merging, I'm not
Mhm.
sure had like a gigantic immediate impact on these guys' career stats, their chances to win championships, because those ABA teams were inferior.
So, well, not all of them because in 1977, which was the year after or the first year of the when it actually merged, Dr. J made finals. So that ABA team wasn't. Yeah,
That
like
one wasn't. They had Dr. J,
yeah,
but
they had
yeah,
Dr. J and Moses Malone, I think. So I mean, like
oh, seriously?
yeah, Moses Malone, dude, underrated. Oh
Yeah.
my God, he was a beast. But yeah, I mean, I honestly think like obviously I want to say too early is when Wilt came because it would have been nice to see actual like legitimate footage and to be able to see just how much of a freak athlete he really was.
Yeah.
But also, I kind of like where he's at because it kind of leaves a little bit of there's like a little bit of mystery, you know.
Yeah, it makes the conversation.
His numbers are like when scientists talk about the distance between planets. That's what his numbers are because like you think you understand the distance between like us and the sun, and then because 93 million miles, you're like yeah, that's not, and then you're like nah, dude, that's actually a long distance,
It's
you
a
know.
pretty long
And
time.
it's like that with Wilt Chamberlain's numbers. Like you look at his numbers, you're like, yeah, but he didn't win. And you're like, I don't know, man. He's averaging like 50 in a season,
Yeah, you really
like,
can't blame
and
him
then
for
25 rebounds, and
And
there's
I can want to like continue to reiterate that I think the reason he didn't win is because the Boston Celtics, with their
they
11 Hall
were,
of Famers, existed in the same exact era.
yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
I think that's hard to beat, and I don't think that's Wilt's fault.
I don't either. Now the 4 games that they lost within like 9 points total in Game 7. Those are a little dicey, but everything else, man, that Celtics teams, they were just better than they beat the Lakers every single year. Jerry West never beat the Celtics in a playoff series. So like it wasn't like the Celtics were just better than the Warriors or the Sixers. Celtics were better than everybody.
Yeah.
And that's just what it was. And you know what's interesting? Wilt Chamberlain actually said when they went out to the 1971-72 season when they won a championship, they said Wilt Chamberlain gave a speech during that like right before they went out to play like the last game, and he was like, "Look, I've always been better than Russell. I've just never had the team around me." It was like I finally got the team around me. Let's go out and like he actually like gave a speech and like admitted like yeah no I was better than Russell. I just never had the team around me. He's like I got the team now. Let's go out and win. You know, and it was just interesting to hear like that's what the teammates remembered about him. Him saying like that was the one speech he ever gave. He never gave a speech other than that. And it's crazy. Like Wilt was kind of known as a he was a rough teammate. Like he would especially when he was trying to average assist that one year. Like if you missed a shot, he would let you know about it. You know, and he constantly showing up late, things like that, and just he's basically James Harden. You know. It just dude, he was about to box Muhammad Ali.
Oh my God.
He would have got fucking worked too. Although they showed them next to each other. Again, you don't really realize how big Wilt Chamberlain is until he's next to Ali and Ali's at his belly button. You're like, dang, dude, like massive. But they called off the fight because Ali's manager was like, he's too big. Let's not. Now, what we know about boxing, Ali would have worked him. But, at that time, it's like, oh, he's bigger,
He's gonna kill him.
Arnold Schwarzenegger said it's the strongest guy he's ever worked out with because they did a movie together. And he said Wilt Chamberlain is by far the strongest guy I've ever worked out with.
Wow. I mean, you got a lot of has to push those weights a long way. For him to be a good weightlifter and be strong and shit. That's pretty wild.
Said he could bench close to 600 pounds. I don't know. I heard 550. I've heard 600. Yeah, speculation.
Are we sure he was a real person?
50-inch vertical.
Yeah, I mean, if he actually benched 600, he's definitely not a real person.
Yeah,
he's an alien.
That's absolutely insane. 600 pounds.
Phil Jackson did an interview, and Phil Jackson was asked compare Shaq and Wilt. And, Phil Jackson, he's not trying to ruffle feathers. So he didn't actually say Wilt was better, but he pretty much said Wilt was better. He
clearly was.
He was like, Shaq wasn't as athletic as Wilt. Shaq had the quickness and, the jumping ability, but Shaq, the endurance was not there. He was like, Wilt Chamberlain was... he said Wilt Chamberlain would not throw an outlet pass. He would actually wait for the point guards to come back to him, and he would throw the ball to him so that he could run down the court and get set up. It's just, and he said Wilt Chamberlain was one of the strongest guys. If Wilt Chamberlain had the ball in his hand and you grabbed onto it, he would just lift you up into the basket. He was incredibly strong.
Yeah. That's absolutely
so he basically, in a roundabout way, said Wilt Chamberlain's better than Shaq, and I agree. I think Wilt Chamberlain would have gave Shaq all types of problems.
Well, if you put him with Kobe, he'd have 24 rings.
Probably.
He'd have stayed in the league for 24 years.
Probably. Or after 8 years, Kobe would have decided he doesn't want to play with him.
You can think of a million different combinations in which Wilt wins.
Right. Well, you get a guy that gets that many boards. For Kobe, that's perfect, though, because, let him fucking chuck that thing. Who cares?
Yeah.
He misses the shot. There's a what percent chance with that many rebounds in a game, however many missed shots, there's a great chance it's going to be recovered by Wilt.
Yeah.
That'd be scary. That'd be impossible. Shaq.
Yeah, you're right.
Dude, someone told me the other day that, Shaq couldn't even play in this area. I'm like, are you insane?
You'd have bully ball
Shaq couldn't figure it out.
People go a little too far talking about one era versus another.
They really do.
Shaq would have been just fine.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's just no way, dude. Shaq. People have this misconception about Shaq that he was just all force and he had no footwork or anything. Shaq had footwork. Shaq was big and it was tough to watch because everything could have been called a foul, and he slowed the game down so much because they had to wait for him to get down there. It was ugly to watch, and it just missed some free throws. Make no mistake, when Shaq got the ball in the post, it was lights out. It was just you could not stop him. That 3-year stretch, nobody could stop him. Granted, he never really faced the center. Let's be real, but Shaq was.
Did Wilt? Did Wilt have a guy that could stop him at all?
I heard this guy named Bill Russell before.
Well, yeah,
but he didn't. He averaged 30.
He did. Yeah, he didn't stop him, but he definitely slowed him down a little bit.
Maybe, but
what do you say?
A little bit. Not really though.
I don't know, but if what you're saying about him being kind of a bad teammate,
yeah, he was kind of a rough
what he
teammate.
did to the point guards and stuff, so he could go get set. I want to take my judgment a little farther away from the team and put that again, make it kind of a Russell Westbrook situation.
Okay.
If they're not winning and he's putting up those numbers and he's doing shit like that, and then say I don't have a team around me, I don't know, man. It seemed like a diva that could have contributed a lot to the no championships early on.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, and everyone hated it. Well, especially if you're doing that, understandably, you're just gonna be the Wilt show. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Include us, man. Let's do some stuff.
My thing is, though, he still won 2 rings. It's not like he didn't win at all.
When
2 championships.
When they told him to change, they kind of changed up the flow of it and was like, all right, we're not going to have you shooting all the shots. We have these other guys that are pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm. No, because Wilt did. Look, to force it to Game 7 against those Boston Celtics, they had some good teams. They weren't bad teams.
Yeah.
But I never think that those teams. And granted, I wasn't around back then, but I just don't think those teams were as good as the Boston Celtics. Now, granted, the Boston Celtics, a lot of people, you see the 11 rings in 13 years, you think they were just unbeatable. But they had some years. Bob Cousy retired. They didn't really have a point guard. They're out there running with Sam Jones and John Havlicek. They didn't have a point guard. Bill Russell was coaching the team and playing. And there was some years where when Wilt broke through in 1967, everyone was like, oh, snap, like this is the end of the Celtics run. And then it just kept going for like another 5 years after that. But everyone at that time was like, oh, snap, like the Celtics are done. And now it's the Wilt Chamberlain show. And unfortunately, it just never really, bad. Look, sometimes stuff just happens, like sometimes things just don't work out. I mean, look at Jerry West. Jerry West lost 8 finals and only won 1. So I think it just happened, It's unfortunate. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a million different combinations where Wilt wins way more championships.
Yeah, I think so.
Mean, he was in about the worst, just getting caught in the same era as those Celtics teams.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do?
It's not much you can. Not much you can do at that point. I like Wilt Chamberlain when he's like in his 50s and he's rocking a stash. Dude, Wilt Chamberlain had the meanest mustache. Like it rivaled Steve Harvey. Like, it was right there.
He looked like a cop.
Yeah, he did.
A giant
He did.
cop with that mustache.
Wilt Chamberlain, also a conservative. Voted for Nixon. Big supporter of Nixon. Back in a time where like people were like, "What? Who are you?" Yeah. So yeah, that was something interesting I found about him.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was really just they said he used to go days without eating. He used to like drive his car, try to get like 200 miles an hour in his car. He was kind of just a loner in a way. Yeah, he was like a weird guy. He just liked women and fast cars and
calls
balling.
himself a loner because nobody liked him.
Yeah, that might be it as well.
I
Although
like being alone.
one thing that's interesting though is when you act like Bill Russell said, Wilt Chamberlain's not only the best player I ever played, but he's also the smartest player I ever played against. And when you hear Bill Russell talk about basketball, it really shines through that he's not just like I'm just going to dominate something. Like he's actually like he understands basketball. It was really interesting listening to him like break down the game. And he was like, yeah, I was scoring all the points, but I was also leading the league and like this percentage over here and stuff. And it's just interesting. It's like, wow, all right, so this guy, like it's not just like, oh, we got to put a ball in a hole. Like, no, he understands basketball. And he even like throughout even after he retired and everything, he still kept up with the game. And he would talk about it all the time. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I've listened to a few of those interviews.
Yeah. Dog, they're kind of mean to him on those interviews. Like Bob Costas was kind of like, dude, who are you talking to?
What would I say?
Like he was like, he was like, Wilt, you were a terrible free throw shooter. Like, just coming at him a little bit. And Wilt was like, I wasn't that bad. Like, and he was. And he was like, you had a season where you shot like 38% from the line. He was like, oh, it wasn't that low. Bob Costas grabs the record book or whatever and goes down and says, well, look, Wilt, 38%.
Wilt
and
probably fucked his wife.
Yeah, and Wilt's looking at it, and then Bob Costas just stands up over him and goes, take it like a man or something like that. And Wilt, and you could see in like Wilt's face, he was like, dude, I'm 2 feet taller than you. Like, I will eat your children.
Yeah,
like, dude, are you serious? Right? And it's crazy. There was another time where this guy was interviewing him. Was like, I got Michael Jordan. Yeah, he was like, I got Michael Jordan as the greatest ever, and I got you as number 2 because you only won 2 championships. Wilt, yeah, and Wilt like grabbed his finger and was like, hey, do not put your finger in my, because he was doing like that to him, and Wilt goes, oh, like, and he plays it off, but you could tell. Like, it was just an awkward. And Wilt said, I got a friend. I called my friend, and you know what he thinks about Michael Jordan's 6 championships? And the guy says, what does he think? He said, he doesn't think anything about it because he's got 11. He's talking about Bill Russell. Yeah, and I just thought that was a great way to answer it. It's like,
just, making the point that, championships are a team stat, not an individual stat.
This is what I'll say in defense of Wilt over Kareem, because I really think that's the real argument, not Wilt versus Bill Russell. I think it's Wilt and Kareem as who's the greatest center ever.
Yeah.
And this is the argument I'll make for Wilt. Without Wilt, I don't know if we see the same Kareem, because Wilt had no one to look at when he was coming. Kareem had Wilt to look at. who to model his game.
He's definitely the blueprint.
Dude, people,
for guys like that.
They talk about the fadeaway jump shot. Wilt Chamberlain created the fadeaway jump shot. That was his shot. He started the fadeaway jump shot before anyone else. Dirk, all of them, it's all, the grandfather is Wilt Chamberlain. A big man, I truly believe this. I think Shaquille O'Neal never worked on his foul shooting because he said Wilt Chamberlain didn't hit free throws. And he was the most dominant center ever. I guarantee you that ran through Shaq's head. I don't guarantee it, but I think it's.
I think with his personality.
Yeah, with his personality, I think that happened. I think Wilt, because of what Wilt did, he set the blueprint for this is what you need to do to be a dominant center in the NBA. And I mean, you look at the centers that have come after him. It's all because of Wilt. It's all because of Bill Russell. And I think the fact that this guy isn't mentioned on like all-time great lists and stuff like that is honestly a travesty. This guy's numbers rival anyone's numbers there's ever been. And they're better, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at it stat for stat, points and stat, any of that, easy. It's just not as fun. It's just not as fun, and that's, I mean, like basketball didn't used to be fun, like you were saying, and now it's like super fun. It's all about the fun. You want to see the guys out there that are the swaggiest dudes. You want to see the guys, like Donovan Mitchell's. Like, he may not be amazing, but he's fun as shit to watch. Guys like that. I mean, you'll have more fans for those guys than you ever would for. I mean, back, I don't know, were they even fans back then? I'm pretty sure they just watched them yell and like.
Yeah.
Wilt would have won some dunk contests. He'd have had some highlight reel dunks if he was fun.
That came from the ABA, by the way, dunk competition.
Really?
Yeah, we took it from the ABA.
That's cool.
Yeah, Dr. J, that was like Dr. J's, big thing was it's crazy, that free throw line dunk, that was actually his second to last dunk. It wasn't his last dunk. So no one remembers his last dunk. They just remember, it's kind of like how much of a miscue. Yeah, they were like, he just took off from the free throw. But like that again, like Dr. J for that time was the Greek freak. Now we actually have the Greek freak and he's an alien. But you can't discredit Dr. J was that for his era. And if not for Dr. J, we might not see a Greek freak like the way we do now. And in 10, 15 years, we're going to see the next version, or maybe longer than that, 20 years. We're going to see the next version of the Greek freak. So I think a lot of times you can just get caught up in discredit and errors and stuff like that. But if you're averaging 50 and 25, I don't care what era you're in. You're dominant. I couldn't do that in a church ball league. So, like.
I think I understand people weighting the eras significantly differently. I do personally. Like, I think Wilt's era is significantly worse than today's NBA.
But more dense, though.
Significantly. But yeah, we talked about that earlier. More dense. So you got to consider, even if you think players these days, even if you think the 1,000th best player in the world today is as good as the 50th best player back then, there were only 8 teams back then, so it was just a lot more dense with talent. But what I don't understand is how people completely discredit Wilt's era, but then 10 years later don't discredit that era. And just like from the 70s on, somehow that's legitimate. But before then, it's like from the merger on,
for the merger on, it's legitimate.
But before that, it's not.
It's
like, and there's no, I mean, it's gray, right? It's not a black or white line. I mean, I don't know. Like you can't compare Kareem. Like, it's more legitimate to compare Wilt stats to Kareem stats. Way more legitimate to compare Wilt stats to Kareem stats than it is Kareem stats to LeBron stats by far.
If Wilt was more well liked by his peers and the game in general, do you think that would be a lot less of like him getting swept under the rug?
Yeah,
because like, I mean, if you're not liked and there's nothing to go back on except for your emotion, you're literally remembering, "Ooh, I hate that guy."
I'm sure that when Wilt, grew up and became more mature and looked back on his career. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just kind
Didn't
of.
seem like in the interviews.
But I'm sure somewhere deep down he realized that if he didn't isolate himself the way he did,
His legacy is definitely a lot different.
he wouldn't have had an entire Lakers team voting to not accept.
How do you even go to that team? No way they told him that. Like he was made aware of that during the time because that I don't care how tough you are, that would hurt my damn feelings.
And I mean, look, like from all the stories, I think we can all agree that Wilt wasn't a great teammate. But I guess like all the arguments against Wilt seem to be only they seem to be personal. You know what I mean?
I think it has to do a lot with I think Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward ever, but you don't.
No, I don't.
But when I think of, I don't know, Tim Duncan was the greatest player on 3 different championship teams, and that's something that no other power forward can say. So it's
yeah, but
and that 03 run, beating Shaq and Kobe in their prime, with a David Robinson that was averaging 8 and 8. He was old at that point. That 03 run, it was literally just Tim Duncan and 4 guys, and he just went out there and he dominated. But I could definitely, you look at.
I don't like basing my assessment on who is better than who based on
just rings.
No, not rings, but anecdotal stats. You know what I mean? Tim Duncan was the best player on 3 different in 3 different eras of Spurs championship teams.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying on 3 teams.
Is that impressive? Absolutely, it's absolutely ridiculously impressive, but it doesn't tell the whole story of their career. You have to look at the whole body of work.
You do. You definitely do.
How many episodes have we brought that back? Because Tim Duncan was early, so I'm guessing that was the original.
The more and more I hear about Tim Duncan's career, it's the more and more impressed I am by it because
ready to come out.
Especially you don't really think about it, but for the last half of his career, he's basically on one leg. He had plantar fasciitis, or Lord, I said that country, but plantar fasciitis in one of his feet, and he was dragging around that foot. He couldn't spin both ways anymore the last half of his career. The more and more, the more and more I hear about Tim Duncan, the more and more I'm like, dude, this guy, defensively, he was arguably the greatest defender ever.
But it would also be the wrong way of thinking about it, in my opinion, to bump his status up because of the plantar fasciitis.
No,
is it impressive that he played on the plantar fasciitis? Yeah, but we shouldn't.
He's just more endeared to the public. And everybody wants to cheer for it. So
and he's also a really good teammate.
I feel like that's usually the tiebreaker. I feel like people look at the stats and they look at the stats in context. Even who are the contemporaries of that era? What type of teams was this player on? And they look at the stats in context. And then when you get in conversations that are too difficult to tell just based on the stats. Maybe it comes down to you value longevity, whereas I value prime. People tend to... The tiebreaker always tends to be some kind of emotional thing. You know what I mean?
Russell Westbrook, I feel like if he doesn't get a championship...
that's what I wanted to bring up.
For his seasons.
Who's better all the time, Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook?
Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook? All time? I mean, Russell Westbrook's got a long way to go.
I mean, he's in his mid-30s.
He's in his mid-30s.
He's 33, right? Yeah.
33,
and Chris Paul's 36, so it's not... But the thing is neither one have won a championship. Russell Westbrook's stats, I mean, he's getting compared to Wilt Chamberlain with these stats that he's putting up. So it's
So I don't know.
I want to say Chris Paul. Even though statistically, I know Russell Westbrook's better. But
he probably puts his team in a better chance to win more.
And that's the thing that you can't measure. And you can't really measure it unless you've seen those 2 players play. I've seen Chris Paul, I've seen Russell Westbrook. I'd rather have Chris Paul. Just me personally. But Russell Westbrook is a better player. But I would rank Chris Paul higher. So it's like one of those things where there's so much nuance to it because you can't just look at just straight stats.
Yeah, and I also think when we use the word stats, we have to be clear. Like, are we only talking about points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, or are we talking about efficiencies, percentages, even advanced analytics? I mean, that because the two can tell two different stories, right? Like Russell Westbrook is clearly going to be downgraded when you start to incorporate,
efficiency.
Efficiencies into the equation.
Yeah, it's not his strong suit. Turnovers either.
Yeah. Whereas Chris Paul, when you, I would be willing to bet that the analytics would bump him up.
Oh, they actually do. So plus minus, right? Which is kind of a flawed stat.
Yeah.
But all-time plus minus, number one all-time, Michael Jordan at like 8 point something. LeBron number 2, like 7 point something. Chris Paul number 3. And I'm sorry, you say it's flawed, but when you got a stat that shows those two at the top, something's right. And it's like when you look at Chris Paul's stats, it's hard to argue that he's not one of the the top point guards ever. But I've seen him melt down in playoff series, and even in the finals, there were games where it's like, what is he doing? They look better with Cameron Payne out there because they were faster.
Had a good couple of games.
He did have a good couple games. Honestly, though, that last game, though, Devin Booker didn't show up.
He had a couple of games where he struggled.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And who's their center? DeAndre Ayton. He really didn't show up that last game. Like Giannis dropping 50 on him. Like, come on, dude. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, Giannis went to that mode.
Yeah, you couldn't stop him.
Have you seen there's another one on the way? Another Antetokounmpo?
Can Mama Antetokounmpo stop?
Dude, they're freezing these guys in a lab or something and then breaking them out. Like, dude, I think this was Alex, and Giannis already said, I think he has a legitimate case to be better than me.
Yeah, that's Giannis being
a long way to go, but that would be crazy if he was anywhere.
But it's like that with Giannis though. Like Giannis wins the championship, everyone's like he's the best player in the league. I'm like, well, like a month ago, a consensus was Kevin Durant's better than Giannis.
Even Giannis said, Kevin Durant's the best player.
So it's like we can't just change it to.
Yeah, he did it without a super team, and everybody that wasn't personally invested, we're just like, yeah.
I guess technically it wasn't a super team.
Needs people to watch their shows every day.
Yeah.
And people won't watch their shows unless their opinions change with the wind.
Technically, it wasn't a super team, but like Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton ain't slouches. Like I've always been a Drew Holiday guy, and then Chris Middleton's averaging like 24 and 7. So it's like. He had a pretty good squad.
Homegrown. Talent.
It was homegrown.
That's what's cool too.
Middleton
stuck through the whole time.
Middleton did. I like Middleton.
There was a third one that obviously he wasn't like a big deal.
Give me a guy that in the fourth quarter can give you like 25 points. I'll take that.
He was cool, man.
He hit the big shots, man.
Yeah, exactly.
He really did.
Giannis really trusts him too, and they've been together so long. I mean, that's why it was so cool. And everybody's like on Giannis's job now.
There's like Middleton's play cycle, and it was like play like trash, and it was like media criticizes him. Middleton plays all right, and it's like Middleton enters GOAT mode. It was so funny, and it's kind of true. Like he would just have these games where it's like, where is Middleton? And then the next game after that, he would go off for 35, and you're like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to be able to hang in that playoff run because it was literally just one bad game by Middleton. I don't remember what series it was, and I was like, yeah, no, they're not. And then he busted for 30 the next game.
Yeah,
and it was just like Giannis. What was his stat line in the finals? Fucking ridiculous.
It was like 35, 15. Like it was something crazy.
If you have a guy shooting well, and you have Giannis just fucking. And that block was the best block I've ever seen in my life.
Almost as good as Bron's 2015 stats.
Those were absolutely absurd. And you looking at who they were facing, and everybody was like Warriors, and the way they were splashing shit back then. Like, I'm excited for Clay to come back this year.
Dude,
I know some people might not be wanting the Warriors to get back up there.
The height of basketball was the mid 2010s.
Yeah, I want to watch Splash Brothers too.
Yeah, I want to watch them because Clay is fucking funny, man, and he's a good. You want to cheer for him. He's funny.
It sucks.
That was the height of basketball, dude. 2015 to like
I
2018,
hate it was
dude.
the same
That was the
finals every year.
highest level, dude.
I think so. I mean,
But-
those Golden State Warriors teams, those are the most fun teams to
They
watch
were
in
fun to
NBA
watch.
history.
Oh, for sure.
There's no-
Dude, that 2016 finals, that shit was amazing. Those
Yeah.
teams, that was the first year where I really felt like, because, the East was always a little bit weaker than the West. And I always felt like, yeah, the Cavs are going to come out of the East or the Heat are going to come out of the East. But the West has got like 3 or 4 teams that could probably beat the Heat. And this was like the first year in 2016 where I was like, oh, okay, like the Cavs are the best team and the Warriors are the best team.
We all knew it was coming.
Yeah, and it actually worked out and it lived up to be just I missed that, dude. I go back and watch that series every once in a while because it was just like that was like LeBron in the athleticism was there and the mind was there and the defense was there.
That block on Curry when he just looked at him,
Yeah.
stared him down.
Yeah.
that was NBA fucking. I'm not a big LeBron stan. I was lit. That was crazy. I wanted Steph Curry to win, but like the way he took over that game was insane, and that's why LeBron's so fun. He takes over a game like nobody else can.
Mhm.
Yeah, he can do it without scoring. Like there's not many guys that can just. Jokic can do it a little bit. Where you look at his numbers and you're like, he's not having that great of a game. But then you got to watch the game and you're like, oh snap! Like he
does the little things really well for a guy.
Yeah.
Because you don't think I don't know. He just looks fucking weird, like Cam Newton running kind of deal. Like doesn't look like he's going as fast or doing as cool as shit. But like, nah, Jokic is a fucking baller.
Yeah, Jokic has one of the most unique games that the NBA has ever seen. Like it, I don't know. He's gonna redefine that position a little bit.
Where's
It
he
does
from?
seem that way.
Serbia? Latvia?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Damn, I don't know. But like, why
He's a
isn't
beast,
he in the Olympics and crushing most everybody except for
I don't know. That is a good
'Cause, like,
question.
You see what Doncic is doing for Slovenia.
Dude,
in the
they're gonna
semis-
win gold. Dude, I'm gonna watch the shit
I'm
out
gonna
of
watch
that.
game for sure.
Dude,
I don't think so.
Dude.
Slovenia ain't gonna beat the. I mean, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but
If
I
Luka
hope
pulls
they get
it-
to the gold medal game. But if Luka wins that,
if he
gold,
pulls that off, that's better. That's championship.
dude,
Like,
that basically.
I would count that as a ring.
It basically counts as a ring.
I would count
yeah.
it.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no. I would say he's an NBA champion. If he pulls off and beats America, I'd be like, all right, well,
It's almost better than
yeah,
a ring. Like
yeah, it really is.
pretty-
Like, I mean, how could you not count that as? So, Sam, all this research on Wilt, he's your goat. Because
I don't know,
you
man.
went to bat for him.
I did go to bat for him. So here's what I'll say.
All right, let's hear it.
I think he is unequivocally better than Kareem. It's just so incredibly difficult to compare eras when you get to Jordan and LeBron. I don't know. I mean, I really do think he's neck and neck with those two. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's all I can say.
Well, that was anticlimactic.
Yeah, a lot for nothing there.
Yeah.
I mean,
What about you, Brandon?
It's getting late. No, I would have to say no. Simply off of I was sitting here honestly basing most of my opinion off of what we've talked about here today, what I've learned here today. I didn't really know a whole bunch about him. But the fact that you were saying he spit on people, fuck that guy.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
And the fact
But
that
I thought it was funny.
I was completely ready to blame his team for all those playoff, all those losses. And
Some of
you
it-
were saying the way he was playing,
Yeah.
that's not conducive to a winning attitude. You're saying he couldn't change his game like
but
Bill Russell did.
you
Bill
also-
Russell was selfless.
you also
he
had to
deserved
figure,
those
though,
things, you know?
Back then, though, there wasn't a lot to go off of, and they were like, we got this guy who every time we throw it down to him is pretty much 2 points, and if not, it's a rebound.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, now we know that that's not the correct way to play like you need. But back then, they
That's
didn't,
true.
back
That's
then
true.
they were like, all right, yeah, we can try it because basketball has not been around that long.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
like
just
with
a
the whole Bill
different.
Russell winning all those championships during that time, the coach and the organization over Wilt obviously just thought he would leave if they pushed back on him a little bit. Like, hey, play a little bit more like
Mhm.
play a little bit more like Bill.
Yeah.
You know, he's out here like. I mean,
Well, but
you're
part
out
of that
performing
could have
him.
been the general coach's mindset was don't be showboaty, don't
Mm-hmm.
don't be selfish in any way, shape, or form, even if it's a more efficient offense for
Yeah.
Wilt to just shoot the ball every time.
Right.
Oscar
So
Robinson said he went up for a dunk. He dunked the ball in practice one time, and his coach said, "If you ever do that again, you won't play on this team."
Yeah. So
Because it was just a different time back. And if you look at Oscar Robinson's career, he's like 6'5", and there's videos of him like jumping and like touching very close to the top of the backboard, but he just never dunked because that's what
That's
his
such a
coach told
shame
him.
to waste that athleticism.
They
Like,
just didn't know back then.
if I could go back in time and punch him in the dick, I probably would.
Dude, Oscar Robinson, honestly, we got to do one on him because, man, his numbers are like blown. Dog, we got to wrap this thing up, man. It's been 2 hours.
dude, I was gonna say,
Dude, we got to talk about Will,
Hey,
dude.
let me give you my top 4.
All right, go ahead.
LeBron, Wilt, MJ, Kareem.
Wilt over MJ.
Wilt over MJ. I'll say it.
All right,
I'm
Will.
not scared.
Hey, for next week.
I would almost agree on that if it wasn't just for the shorter career 6 championships.
So for next week, everyone, well, you guys don't have to do it. Obviously, I'm not your teacher, but I'm just saying, everyone make a top 10 list and we'll go through it and we'll compare. See what we got.
All right, Eric's back on.
No
the
guarantees.
No, you can still come
No
in.
guarantees.
We'll do
my top
four.
10 doesn't change next
We'll see.
week. By the
I'm
way,
very-
that top 4.
Yeah, I figured that might be the case. But so we'll do that. Who we
What, are
doing
you
next
trying to
week?
say that I'm going to feel pressure to put?
No,
Jordan
I
over
don't
Wilt?
think so. I don't think so. I think, but it's one of those things where you get fixated on maybe one thing, and then the next day you're fixated on something else.
I do think that there's something to be said for if those stories are true about Wilt's attitude. I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot to be said for that.
I don't think he made his
I really do
teammates.
too.
I don't think he
There's
made
a
his teammates
reason
better.
The general consensus.
Yeah.
Is that guy sucks.
That's what gets me is every
Teammates and
single
everything.
person that was around during that era. There's not one person who's like, oh no, Wilt was bad. And that's where it's like, okay, like, well, what am I missing? Like, there's something, but then this guy Bob Ryan, who I'm a huge fan of, he's old though, so you better catch him while you can, But like he's, he kind of broke it down. They broke down like the top 75 list, and they were talking about Wilt and Bill and stuff, and it's just like he made it make a little bit more sense. I recommend anyone go find Bob Ryan on YouTube. They break down the top 75.
I agree. I like him a lot. I think he breaks stuff down pretty good. He is old as dirt as advertised. Shout out to that man for still breathing.
Yep, but hey, look, we're having fun with it, right? We're up to 30 subscribers on YouTube. We got some downloads coming in. This one I think is going to do pretty good. It's a 2-hour podcast.
We were over here just talking about nonsense.
Yeah, dude, I got.
And you know what's crazy? Like we talked about Wilt for like a solid hour and a half.
Yeah,
I had to usually interject. I told y'all I was going to throw that Hornet shit.
Yeah, dude, it's good.
I had to jam that.
Yeah, you did. I'm glad you did that.
Well, dude, Wilt just had this like crazy career. It's hard not to, I could talk about Wilt Chamberlain all day.
Yeah, you told me.
I just
yeah. You could talk about him all day.
He's amazing.
I feel like
man.
people don't let some of the crazy things. People don't let it soak in enough. The things he did. The automatic reaction is, oh, he averaged 50 points. It's completely different.
He's a victim of how ridiculous he played.
He's a victim of. I mean, yeah, it's too good.
Right
It's too good to be true, right? But it's not. It's legit.
You can still see it. Like you can see those YouTube videos. You can get a gist of it.
1962 Wilt Chamberlain versus 2001 Shaq.
Wilt.
I'd take Wilt too.
Yeah. 1961 Wilt over basically anyone except for Jordan in his prime.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to argue, dude. Those stats, they're like eye popping.
That's rookie Wilt?
No, 19. That was the 50 point a game Wilt.
Okay.
1962.
Yeah.
Do you play a lot of NBA 2K online?
I used to.
Do they have like cards where you can play as Wilt or stuff like that? Because you know how MLB The Show does. They'll have cards, and it's cool because you can see Willie Stargell, Jackie Robinson playing against I don't know. That would be cool as shit to get Wilt Chamberlain and be able to play against because they have the throwback teams, so I'm sure he's in there. You can play in certain things. But like that would be, I've just never thought to be like, I'm gonna play and beat your ass as Wilt Chamberlain. I might go home and try to do that right now.
Well, they probably don't rate him right, like
That's true.
because
But, like,
those developers don't know.
if it's like the team on there is the 62 Sixers. Is it Sixers?
The 62 Philadelphia Warriors.
Philadelphia Warriors. Okay, like his stats would have been fucking incredible. Like, so they would have had to make him like a fucking unstoppable beast.
My thing that's crazy though is like Bill Russell is like 6'8", 6'9". And I didn't realize how short he was until him and LeBron stood next to each other, and LeBron's like like can almost see over him, and it's like Bill Russell's game in today. I don't think Bill Russell would have led the league in rebounding, or not at 6'9".
No.
And it's crazy, when Wilt Chamberlain actually got upset with Dennis Rodman. Because Dennis Rodman was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the greatest rebounder ever. Wilt Chamberlain called up Bill Russell and was like, "Can you believe this crap? Like, I got more rebounds in a quarter than this guy got." And for some reason, though, we just discredit what. And he's right. And Bill Russell's right, too. Bill Russell averaged like 20-some rebounds a game. So it's like, why is Wilt Chamberlain's stats like? You can't just say Dennis Rodman's the greatest rebounder ever because that's just not true. Yeah. Now, granted, you could make an argument per size, because he was only like 6'7", grabbing like 17 rebounds a game. But anyways, man, hey, look, we got to wrap this thing up. We're at 2 hours. Who we doing next week?
I don't know. Who's in the queue?
We should probably do because this is episode 9, right?
Dude, you already asked me that, and I said I didn't.
Yeah, so episode 10, y'all want to do like a different one? Instead of
like
basketball.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
You want to do NFL again, or
It's up to you, dude. I'll let y'all run this.
What do you think? I don't know if I should ask. I don't know if Eric's gonna be on.
Yeah, he's gonna be.
We'll see.
Yeah.
If you